All right, let's talk about the Buffalo Bills. You can make a strong argument that they were the best team in football in 2021. But guess what? If you don't win the Super Bowl, it doesn't matter. The Rams got the Super Bowl. They got Patrick Mahomes in the divisional round with that 13-second thing, which I'm sure will haunt them, along with a lot of things that probably haunt Bills fans until you finally get that Lombardi trophy. But don't panic. You have a great situation going. This was your last shot thing. Of course, we never know exactly how these things will work out, but on paper, you should be in still a pretty decent spot for next year. Let's talk about kind of what they have to do in this offseason to maybe improve or at least stay as good. Because again, their defensive statistics, some were saying that they were the best team in football. Now, how much of that was the competition? Certainly a part of it, but still. And obviously, you have Josh Allen, you have Stephon Diggs, you have a lot of good, but Gabriel Davis came out and when he started getting significant playing time was awesome. 4 touchdowns in a playoff game. So let's talk about their free agents. So these are their free agents. You see at the top of the screen, the cap space the Bills have is -$5 million. Also, the number next to each free agent, that's how much either me or Sports Track is projecting that they will get in free agency. So if Sports Track had an estimate, I just used theirs. If they didn't, then I guessed. So that's how I got this. And you see, there's definitely some interior defensive linemen are certainly a lot of these guys. That's kind of maybe the one thing that they'll have to make sure they either keep or get different additions from. So, do you want to let Jerry Hughes walk? I wouldn't. And personally, I think he's probably worth more than $3 million. I don't think that's a move that you want to make if you can avoid it. Do you want to let Mario Addison walk? Okay, given how he played this past year, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, I wouldn't say, but still, you would like to keep him if possible, and that is kind of you're taking a hit there for sure. So that's kind of the case with some of these defensive linemen, like Harrison Phillips. Do you want to let him walk? Probably not. You probably want to make sure you keep him. So those are guys that are probably going to try and make sure that they do, in fact, keep. Also, it's kind of that next paragraph. These are some guys who, I don't even know if they want to re-sign all of them, but if you don't, you're still going to have to replace them with somebody, like a Mitchell Trubisky, who Trubisky might end up being an interesting free agent this offseason, just given how bad the Bears situation looked once he left. People might then kind of look at that and say, oh, maybe he was better than we realized. I don't know if that's true, but I do think Trubisky's a solid backup, if nothing else. So if you don't re-sign him, you have to replace him. You have to have a backup quarterback. So a lot of those guys on that bottom section, like Emmanuel Sanders and Isaiah McKenzie as well, they played a role for the Bills this season. There's no denying that. Emmanuel Sanders, maybe not what he once was, but still played a role for sure. Isaiah McKenzie did have some moments. So if you do let those guys walk, you have to replace them with somebody. So if they decided they wanted to re-sign everybody you see on this list, they would need $46 million to do that, which means they would have to clear up $51 total million since they're already $5 million over the cap, which seems like a tall task. And it should be mentioned that the average team in terms of actual cash spends about $25-30 million over the cap anyways. So that's kind of a good baseline to think about. Is it might not necessarily be 51, it might be kind of closer to 25 million if they re-sign everybody, and maybe they just don't re-sign everybody. But here are some players they could cut to clear up some cap space. So again, I'm not saying these are guys you necessarily want to cut, but just guys that if you choose to cut, there's someone you put on when you're making your decisions, you at least will put these guys on these are someone we can cut that won't be too much dead cap and will clear up some cap space. This is an option on the table. You have Mitch Morse, who, he's a solid center. He's not a star center, but he's solid, worth $9 million. Maybe if you feel like you can draft someone, that's an option that you could take. Darrell Williams, who, again, an offensive lineman who gets significant playing time. These guys tend to be pretty important. If you do let him walk, you have to replace him. So I probably would just hang on to Williams. I think that the $6 million is a fine pay raise. So to me, I just keep him, but he's someone who you could consider if you feel like if you like a guard that's going to go in the second round, that's an option you could take. Cole Beasley, that might be an option they really consider, actually, is getting rid of Cole Beasley. He didn't have his best year this year. You do kind of wonder how many years he has left in the tank, potentially. But at the same, he is going to be 33 next year. How much does he have? You could clear up $6 million, but it's not like you're clearing up a ton there. Again, A.J. Klein, linebacker, who isn't their, number 1 or number 2 linebacker. He is nice depth to have, but he is someone you can get rid of. Devin Singletary, you could clear up $3 million. That's, an option on the table. You're not clearing up a ton there. But again, these are the options the Bills will think about, and that's kind of what I want to do with these videos. It's less about predicting, although I do some predictions as well, but more about just setting the stage for where these teams currently are. Looking over here, so this is where the Bills ended up in each positional category last year according to PFF. So again, I know PFF, especially Bills fans and PFF, don't exactly get along, but it's not a bad way to view some of this stuff. It's a statistic we can use, right? Like a lot of stuff, it's just something we can use to look at. And so, passing, they said Josh Allen was the 8th best quarterback in football this year. And quite frankly, we know that he's better than that. He had some bad games, I think, in this one, but he's a really good quarterback. And I think he showed flashes of, I had this take at the beginning of last season, and it really, I think, came true, which is when he is at his best, he's better than any quarterback in football. I truly believe that. So that's what you have. That's the golden goose you have is the Josh Allen of it all. Offensive line could use some improvements. Maybe that's something you look to improve upon. The receiving core actually ended up being pretty decent, and a big chunk of it, like I said, once Gabriel Davis kind of got more playing time, became a bigger role in this offense, I think it worked better, and he could be a real number 2 option. I think they still could use an extra guy there, but that's something you can work on. The running game was actually best in football, according to PFF. Part of this is Josh Allen's rushing ability. And again, it's just talking about the backs running. It's not run blocking or anything like that. Run defense and pass rush, there's area to improve upon. It's solid. It's good, but it's not, elite. Maybe there's ways you can improve upon that. And coverage, very good. You want to maintain that if you possibly can. So that might mean, make sure you re-sign a guy like Levi Wallace, who was a good corner for you. I think that's something that you could definitely make sure you do. So coverage can always also kind of fluctuate year in and year out. So that's maybe a concern. Like, the Bills basically had pretty similar talent this past year that they did the year before, but things just worked way better this year. So you hope that happens again. That's kind of the mindset here. So yeah, listen, at the end of the day, the Bills are not in a bad spot. There's some decisions they have to make, but quite frankly, even if they kind of let everyone walk, they're still like an easy playoff team and still a team that could see contending for a championship, and they're not going to let everyone walk. They're going to get some of those guys back or replace them with other guys. So the Bills are good, and the Bills are in a good spot, and I think definitely the Bills are going to be a team that a lot of people predict to win the Super Bowl next year, and I think that for a good reason. We'll have to see how this offseason plays out. Of course, what moves do they make here? But the reality is you have Josh Allen, and that's going to go a long way. And not only that, but you have Josh Allen, who's only getting $16 million against the cap in 2022. So that makes things a lot easier to kind of build there. And maybe you kind of say, hey, let's go all in when Josh Allen is still, a little bit cheaper. And then once that contract really kicks in, then we'll, dial it back a little bit. I could see something like that happening. I don't think that would be crazy. Maybe go out and get one of those free agent guards that are available. It's an option on the table. It's something you can choose when you have a quarterback who's a little bit cheaper right now. So yeah, it's interesting stuff. But that's what I think about the Buffalo Bills heading into the offseason. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. What are your thoughts on Buffalo? Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.